Alara moved carefully through the thick mist of the forest, her hands brushing over the dew-laden ferns. The early morning light struggled to break through the twisted branches overhead, casting strange, dancing shadows on the forest floor. The air was heavy with the scent of moss and wet earth, and somewhere in the distance, a stream whispered over rocks as if sharing secrets with the wind. Her heart beat faster as she followed the faint sound of a low growl. She had heard of strange creatures wandering the forest, wolves larger than any ordinary beast, cursed animals bound by ancient magic, but she had never seen one herself. Still, something in her gut told her to move forward, not away. Ilara's village called her reckless, but she did not mind. She had always felt a deeper connection with the wounded and the lost, whether human or beast. And today it seemed the forest had something desperate for her care. Through a break in the trees she saw him, a massive wolf. Fur as black as the night sky was bound in heavy iron chains, their links carved with strange symbols that glimmered faintly like embers in the morning light. His eyes were bright silver, glowing with pain and fear. Every time he tried to move, the chains rattled, echoing like a warning. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. She had heard stories, tales of wolves that were more than wolves, cursed kings of their kind trapped by dark magic for crimes long forgotten. And yet, she could not leave him to suffer. Slowly, she stepped forward, keeping her movements calm. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I won't hurt you." The wolf's ears flicked, and he growled low in his throat. His silver eyes never left hers, sharp and intelligent, filled with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Ilara reached out, her hand hovering over his fur. The forest seemed to hold its breath as she gently touched the coarse strands. The chains were cold under her fingers, and the symbols seemed to pulse faintly. Her healer instincts tingled. These were not ordinary chains, they carried a curse binding not just his body but his spirit. Ilara examined the wounds along his legs, old cuts and bruises that spoke of long suffering. She worked quickly, using her herbs and simple salves to soothe them, her hands moving with a steady confidence that surprised even herself. The wolf remained tense, every muscle coiled as if ready to strike, yet he did not attack. He simply watched her, his glowing eyes unwavering. Hours passed. The morning light grew stronger, but the forest remained hushed around them, almost as if it too were holding its breath. Ilara whispered soft words of encouragement, sharing warmth and care in every motion. Slowly she noticed a subtle change. The wolf's growl softened to a low rumble, and his body relaxed slightly against the chains. Just as she finished dressing a particularly deep gash on his shoulder, the sound of approaching voices shattered the fragile peace. Villagers armed with pitchforks and crude weapons burst through the trees. "Kill it," one shouted. "It's a cursed beast. It will devour us all." Ilara stepped between the villagers and the wolf, raising her hands. "Stop," she cried. "It is hurt. Please don't harm him." But fear had already taken hold. One man lunged forward, swinging a heavy club. The wolf snarled, and something in the air shifted. The chains rattled violently, and a strange wind swirled around the clearing. Then it happened. The wolf's body stretched and twisted, bones reshaping, muscles growing. His black fur shimmered like liquid night as he rose, no longer a wolf, but a man towering over the villagers. His hair silver, and eyes brighter than polished steel. He moved with the grace of a predator and the strength of a king. The villagers froze, terror rooting them to the ground. Kalen, the Alpha King, looked down at them with an intensity that made their knees shake. "You dare threaten the one who freed me?" His voice was deep, commanding, yet not unkind. Ilara took a step back, awe and fear swirling inside her. You're the wolf?" she whispered. Kalen's gaze fell on her, and something unspoken passed between them. A spark, a recognition, a bond that neither fully understood. "You freed me," he said slowly, each word deliberate. "And now, you are mine." Ilara's heart raced. She did not fully understand what he meant, but she sensed the truth in it. He was no ordinary man, no ordinary wolf. He was a king, bound by chains both physical and magical, and now somehow their fates were intertwined. The villagers, still frozen in fear, slowly backed away. Kalen's eyes followed them, a low growl rumbling in his chest, warning them to flee. They scattered, leaving the clearing silent once more, the only sound the distant rush of the stream and the whispering wind. Ilara remained standing, her hands trembling slightly. She could not speak, could not move. Kalen approached her, each step deliberate, powerful, and strangely gentle. When he stopped before her, she could feel the heat of his presence, the weight of his gaze. "You have courage," he said, his voice softer now, almost reverent, and something more. Something rare in humans. Ilara's chest tightened. I only wanted to help," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Kalen's silver eyes softened. "Help has a price," he said, "and sometimes it binds souls together in ways neither can escape." Ilara felt a shiver run through her. She had always been drawn to the wounded, to those in pain, but she had never imagined that helping one would change her life so completely. She glanced at the chains, now broken and scattered on the forest floor. They no longer held Kalen, but their marks remained on his skin. Faint scars that whispered of long years of suffering. I don't understand," she admitted, her voice quivering. "Why me?" Kalen reached out, a hand brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because," he said, "you saw me. Not the curse, not the beast, but me, and that is rare indeed." For a moment the world seemed to hold still. The mist swirled around them, and the forest itself seemed to lean in, listening to the words unspoken between healer and king. Ilara felt something stir within her, a mixture of fear, awe, and an undeniable pull toward this being who was both terrifying and magnificent. "You must come with me," Kalen said finally, his tone leaving no room for argument. "There are dangers you cannot yet see, and if you stay you will be part of this. Willingly or not," Ilara hesitated. Her village was behind her, her life simple and quiet. But when she looked into Kalen's eyes, she saw centuries of loneliness, suffering, and a heart burdened by chains of its own. She could not turn away, not now, not after seeing him. I will go," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I will come with you." Kalen nodded, a flicker of approval in his eyes. "Good. Then let us leave before the others return." As they moved deeper into the forest, shadows clinging to the trees like memories, Ilara felt the weight of what she had chosen. She did not fully understand what lay ahead, only that her life, and perhaps her heart, was now bound to this Alpha King. And as the first light of dawn broke through the mist, illuminating their path, a sense of destiny settled over her, a destiny written in chains and shadows, in silver eyes and whispered magic, in a bond neither human nor wolf could escape. The forest seemed to watch them, and in its silence Ilara could almost hear a soft voice, carried on the wind. "Your choice has begun, and nothing will ever be the same." Ilara followed Kalen through the dense forest, her heart still pounding from the morning's events. The air was cooler here, carrying the scent of pine and the faint tang of magic. Every step they took seemed to stir the shadows, and the forest whispered as though aware of their presence. Kalen moved silently, his silver eyes scanning the surroundings with a predator's sharpness. Even as a man, there was a wildness in him, a grace and power that made her both fearful and fascinated. Ilara could feel the weight of his gaze on her, a constant reminder that she had entered a world far beyond her own. After several hours, they reached the foot of the mountains that bordered the Wolf Kingdom. Jagged cliffs rose like dark teeth against the sky, and the wind carried distant echoes of howls, neither wholly human nor wholly animal. At the base of the cliffs, a hidden path wound upward, guarded by ancient runes that shimmered faintly when Kalen passed. "This path is dangerous," Kalen said, his voice low. "Not all who enter the mountains return, but you are with me now. I will protect you." Ilara nodded, trying to steady her trembling hands. The world she knew, her village, her quiet life, felt impossibly far away. And yet she did not regret her choice. The Wolf King had saved her curiosity as much as she had saved him. They climbed in silence, the sound of their steps mingling with the faint echoes of the wind through the jagged rocks. When they reached the top, Kalen gestured toward a massive fortress carved into the mountain itself. Its walls were dark stone worn by centuries, yet it radiated authority and power. Towers pierced the clouds, and banners bearing the mark of a silver wolf fluttered in the wind. "This is my home," Kalen said, his voice softer now. "Welcome to the Wolf Kingdom." Ilara's eyes widened. She had imagined palaces in stories, grand halls filled with gold and jewels, but this fortress was different. It was dark and beautiful, powerful and ancient. She could feel the presence of countless generations of Alpha Kings in its walls, their strength lingering in the air like a tangible force. As they entered, Kalen's posture shifted. He became a king once more, commanding respect without raising his voice. Guards and nobles bowed as he passed, their expressions a mix of awe and fear. Ilara could sense their judgment, their suspicion. She was an outsider, a human, yet she walked beside their ruler. Inside the fortress, the corridors were wide and shadowed, lined with tapestries that depicted wolves and men in battle, kings and queens ruling side by side, and strange symbols of magic intertwined with the history of the kingdom. Kaelin led her to a chamber at the heart of the fortress, a room both grand and austere, lit by a single chandelier of enchanted crystals. "You will stay here," he said. "It is safe and it is yours while you are in my world." Ilara looked around, feeling the weight of the room's silence. It was not empty, yet it was devoid of warmth. "It is beautiful," she said softly, though her heart ached with the knowledge that she was far from home. Kaelin's gaze softened. "You will grow used to it," he said, "and in time you will understand what it means to be part of this kingdom." The first days were quiet, filled with lessons and observation. Ilara learned to navigate the fortress, to read the subtle signals of Kaelin's court, and to recognize the nobles' hidden agendas. She discovered that loyalty in the Wolf Kingdom was earned through strength, cunning, and the ability to endure trials that would break most humans. Kaelin, meanwhile, observed her closely. He tested her courage with small challenges, asking her to walk alone through the shadowed corridors, to face the wolves that roamed the inner grounds, and to confront the truth of the kingdom's history. Ilara met each test with a mixture of fear and determination, surprising even herself with the strength she found within. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Kaelin found her in the gardens, a place of moonlit flowers and hidden fountains. The air smelled of night-blooming jasmine, and the water reflected the silver light of the rising moon. "You have adapted quickly," he said, stepping beside her, "faster than I expected." Ilara smiled faintly, though her heart was heavy. "I want to understand your world. I want to help if I can." Kaelin studied her for a long moment, his silver eyes unreadable. "Help is dangerous here," he said. "Not because you lack ability, but because the kingdom tests the heart as much as it tests the body. And your heart. It is unlike any I have seen." Ilara's cheeks warmed. "What do you mean?" "You feel," he said simply. "Not just the pain or fear, but the truth beneath it. You see what others hide, and that is a rare gift, though it will make you a target." That night, whispers of unrest reached them. A noble named Darian, ambitious and cunning, had begun spreading rumors about Ilara's influence over Kaelin. "A human cannot rule a kingdom," they said. "She is a distraction, a weakness." Kaelin's anger was quiet but fierce. He summoned Darian to the hall, where the noble trembled under the Alpha King's silver gaze. "You will not threaten her," Kaelin said, "nor will you question her place beside me, or you will face the consequences." Ilara watched, her hands clenching at her sides. She had never imagined wielding such power by simply being herself, and yet she felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The court was a dangerous place, full of shadows that whispered and schemes that could turn deadly in a heartbeat. Days turned into weeks, and Ilara and Kaelin spent time together in moments of quiet intimacy, away from the eyes of the court. They walked the fortress's hidden paths, spoke under the moonlight, and shared stories of their pasts. Kaelin told her of the chains that had bound him, the betrayal of his kin, and the curse that had shaped him for centuries. Ilara spoke of her village, her family, and her belief in healing and hope even in the darkest places. Through these conversations, trust began to grow. Kaelin, whose heart had been hardened by loneliness and betrayal, began to soften. He showed her the wolf within him, not just the predator, but the protector, the leader, the one who longed for connection. One night, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the forested lands below, Kaelin shifted into his wolf form, black fur glistening in the moonlight. Ilara did not flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, feeling the bond between them deepen with each heartbeat. "You are not afraid," Kaelin murmured, his wolf eyes reflecting the stars. "Most would flee. Most would scream." Ilara shook her head. I do not know why. Perhaps because I see you truly. Not just the wolf, not just the king, but you." For a long moment, the world seemed to hold still. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and the distant mountains. Kaelin lowered his head, resting it gently against her shoulder, a rare gesture of trust and affection. But their peace was not to last. From the depths of the cursed lands, a shadow stirred, Magic long thought dormant began to stir, responding to Kaelin's freedom and the bond forming with Alara. A dark sorcerer who had once imprisoned the Alpha King felt the shift and began to move against them. Alara did not yet know the full extent of the danger, but a sense of foreboding settled over her. The forest, the mountains, even the wind seemed to warn her. The past was not done with Kaelin, and neither was the curse. That night, as she lay in her chamber, she heard a faint whisper carried on the wind. "You are chosen, and so is he, but the path ahead will test both heart and soul." Ilara's fingers traced the edge of the window, the moonlight casting silver patterns across the floor. She felt both fear and resolve. She had chosen this path when she freed the wolf in the forest. She had chosen to walk with Kaelin into a world of power, magic, and danger, and now she would need all her courage to face what was coming. Outside, Kaelin shifted back into his human form, standing on the balcony and gazing into the night. His eyes, bright and unyielding, reflected a mixture of determination and concern. He had trusted Alara with his freedom, and in return, she had chosen to trust him with her heart. But the shadow of the sorcerer's magic loomed closer, and both of them knew that the trials ahead would demand more than courage. They would demand sacrifice, strength, and a bond strong enough to withstand the darkness threatening the Wolf Kingdom. The first whispers of battle and betrayal had begun, and Alara realized with a mixture of fear and awe that her life and her heart were now forever tied to the Alpha King. The first light of dawn crept over the mountains, casting pale gold across the Wolf Kingdom. The fortress walls, once a symbol of strength and safety, now seemed heavy with foreboding. Alara awoke to the quiet hum of magic in the air, a warning she could not ignore. Kaelin had sensed it too, the dark presence moving through the cursed lands, drawing closer with each passing hour. By the time she reached the balcony, Kaelin was already there, silver eyes scanning the distant forest. His wolf form had shifted, back into manhood, but the wild grace lingered in his stance. The weight of centuries of leadership, battle, and betrayal pressed upon him, and yet he stood tall, unwavering. "They are coming," he said quietly. "The one who bound me, the sorcerer, he has not forgotten, and he will not forgive." Alara stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of his coat. "We will face him together," she said. "I will not leave you." Kaelin's gaze softened briefly, a rare flicker of vulnerability. "You do not know what that means," he said. "This is not just a battle of swords or strength. It is a test of soul and will. Many who try to stand against him are broken." Alara nodded. She had seen glimpses of Kaelin's power, felt it in the gentle brush of his hand, the pull of his presence, and she knew now that strength alone would not be enough. Courage, trust, and the bond between them would be their true shield. The day passed in preparation. The castle guards, though loyal, were tense, aware of the approaching threat. The nobles whispered in dark corridors, some plotting, some praying, all aware that the kingdom teetered on the edge of danger. Kaelin moved among them, his authority unquestioned, yet his mind remained focused on Alara. She was not only a human in a world of wolves and magic, she had become his anchor, his bond, his courage reflected in a mortal soul. As twilight fell, a shadow swept across the mountains. From the cursed lands came a figure cloaked in dark energy, eyes gleaming with malice. The sorcerer who had once chained Kaelin had returned, drawn by the stirrings of the Alpha King's newfound freedom. Kaelin shifted into his wolf form instantly, muscles tensing, fur gleaming like obsidian under the fading light. Alara's heart raced, but she did not flinch. She stepped beside him, her hands brushing the amulet she had worn since their first meeting, a charm of protection and courage, imbued with her healing magic. The sorcerer's voice echoed across the valley, chilling and cold. "Alpha King, you cannot escape the chains that bind you, and she will not save you." Kaelin growled, low and dangerous, a sound that shook the very earth beneath them. "You will not harm her," he said, "or you will face the wrath of the kingdom and the bond we share." Alara felt the pull of magic in the air, a tug at her soul that threatened to overwhelm her. The bond between her and Kaelin surged, connecting them in a way that was both terrifying and beautiful. She could feel his heartbeat, his strength, his will, and it steadied her own. The battle began as shadows collided with light. Wolves and humans alike faced the sorcerer's summoned creatures, dark forms that writhed like smoke, teeth glinting, claws sharp and merciless. Kalen moved through the chaos with the grace of a predator and the mind of a king, his every action precise, powerful, and calculated. Ilara followed, her healing magic shielding the wounded and bolstering the fighters. Each touch of her hands sent warmth and strength, mending broken flesh and soothing pain. She realized now that her gift was not small. It was a force of its own, one that could tip the balance of the battle. The sorcerer's laughter echoed as he sent a wave of dark energy toward Kalen. The Wolf King's silver eyes flared, and he met it head-on, claws striking with speed and precision. Yet even his strength was tested against the sorcerer's ancient power. Ilara felt fear claw at her chest, but she did not falter. She stepped forward, placing her hands upon the ground, channeling her magic into a protective circle around Kalen. The air shimmered, a faint glow surrounding them both, intertwining their energies. For a brief moment the sorcerer faltered, his dark magic colliding with the bond between human and Wolf King. Kalen's voice reached her, low and commanding. "Ilara, trust me. Now." With a deep breath, she let go of fear and doubt. She allowed her soul to intertwine with his, offering her courage, her hope, her very being to the bond. A surge of light erupted, flowing through them both, bright as the rising sun and as fierce as a storm. The sorcerer screamed, staggering as the light shattered the dark energy, breaking the chains of fear and control he had held for centuries. Kalen, his strength renewed by Ilara's courage and the bond they shared, struck with precision, ending the battle in a flash of silver light and shadow. When the echoes faded, silence fell over the valley. The wolves of the kingdom circled Kalen, loyal and watchful, sensing the shift in power. The sorcerer was gone, defeated, his magic scattered like ashes in the wind. Kalen shifted back into human form, his chest heaving, silver hair glowing faintly under the moonlight. He looked at Ilara, eyes softening, a mixture of awe and gratitude reflected in their depths. You saved me," he said, his voice almost unsteady. "Not with strength, but with heart, with courage, with yourself." Ilara's cheeks warmed. "We saved each other," she said quietly. "I only gave what you already trusted me to share." Kalen took her hands in his grip firm yet gentle. "You have given me more than freedom," he said. "You have given me hope and perhaps something I thought lost forever, trust and love." Ilara's heart thumped in her chest. The bond between them, forged in chains and battle, glowed faintly, a promise of connection beyond magic, beyond fear, beyond even the bounds of life itself. The Alpha King lowered his forehead to hers, a gesture both intimate and reverent. "The kingdom is safe for now," he murmured. "But you are a part of it now, a part of me, and nothing will ever be the same." Ilara nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. The fear of the past, the uncertainty of her choice, the weight of the kingdom, all of it faded slightly in the presence of the bond they shared. She realized that she had found not just a purpose, but a place where her courage, her heart, and her spirit could make a difference. In the days that followed, the Wolf Kingdom slowly returned to life. Nobles and guards alike treated her with respect, acknowledging the bond that had saved the kingdom. Kalen, no longer bound by the chains of the curse, moved with the grace and power of a true king, yet always mindful of the human who had stood beside him. At night, they walked together in the moonlit gardens, the stars reflected in the fountains. Kalen would shift into his wolf form, and Ilara would stand close, feeling the connection between them deepen with each shared glance, each quiet word, each brush of hands. "You have changed everything," Kalen said one evening, voice low and filled with awe. "The curse, the kingdoms, even me. You are the light that binds the shadows." Elara smiled faintly. And you are the strength that gives courage to the light. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings. The forest, the mountains, even the air itself seemed to acknowledge the bond between healer and king, human and wolf, light and shadow. Elara knew that challenges would come again. Darkness never truly vanished. But she also knew that together, she and Kaelin could face anything. Their hearts intertwined by trust, courage, and the bond forged in chains and shadows, had become a force stronger than magic itself. As they stood on the highest balcony of the fortress, overlooking the kingdom bathed in silver moonlight, Kaelin wrapped an arm around Elara, his silver eyes reflecting the stars above. "You are mine," he said softly, "not as a claim but as a promise." "And you are mine," Elara replied, her voice steady, her heart full. The moonlight bathed them both in a gentle glow, the shadows of the past finally lifted. A new chapter of their lives had begun, one of trust, love, and the courage to face whatever the future might hold. The Alpha King had been freed from chains, and the human who had dared to touch his soul had found a place where her heart could soar. Together, they stood as both protectors and partners, bound not by fear, but by choice, by courage, and by love. And as the wind whispered through the mountains and forests, the kingdom itself seemed to breathe a quiet sigh of relief, the promise of peace, and the magic of a bond unbroken stretching across the lands.